I'm saying he's on the border, Tom and Ron.
Okay.
But I'm saying it's worth thinking about. Again, real-world economics. There's just something about it that says to me, foundation player, is this a Hall of Famer? And there's a whisper saying yes. I'm just saying that.
You know what I love about your piece there is not only talking about a guy like Buehrle, but the wiggle room for pitchers seems to be non-existent. If you're not the greatest of your generation, you're certainly going to get in. But like you said, if we're not honoring those workman-like blue-collar guys that go out there every fifth day and produce 200 innings plus and produce great results plus, then who are we honoring? Are we just honoring the greatest of the greatest? Many people will argue, of course, that's the Hall of Fame. It should only be the greatest of the greatest. But these guys should definitely be given a look.
You know what the other part of it, too, Ronnie, is that even Buehrle doing 230 innings, and he's leading the league in innings pitched twice, like in a single season. But it doesn't compare to Fergie Jenkins a generation earlier when Fergie's doing 300 innings. So it doesn't look that impressive, and yet by the standards now, it's incredibly impressive. Where are you on this?
Old Haas Buehrle.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. Like I said, looking at his record, it does look even better now than it did at the time. And my goodness, he should be the sports writer's best friend. You know how fast he worked?
Yeah.
Mark Buehrle, he got the ball and he went. Great story on Buehrle. Never shook off a sign.
That's right.
Never shook off a sign in the major leagues. It was Chris Sale who told me that because Chris Sale adopted the same approach. Don't let the hitter think and trust your catcher. Do your homework before the game and go take the test. That was Mark Buehrle. Put the ball on the ground a lot, so fielding and independent pitching is not really friendly to him. But the one thing that's missing here is true greatness. He pitched 16 years, got Cy Young Award votes once. He got 5 third-place votes in 2005. That's it. It's the only time he showed up. So you're not going to see eliteness, greatness. And as for starting pitchers, man, we're going to have another wave. Kershaw, Verlander, Scherzer, Greinke. You want to put Sabathia in there. Lester, Hamill could be tracking in that direction. So it's not going to dry up. We're going to get starting pitchers in the Hall of Fame. It won't be 300-game winners.
Right.
But Mark Buehrle, to me, I mean, listen, I appreciate what you did here because I think he does deserve a long look. But it's hard for me to say that he's in the Hall of Fame greatness category. There's really, really good, very good, and then there's great, and he's just a little bit short.
But my point, part of the point is Johan was great, Cliff Lee was great, Carpenter was great, Lester was great. They're not getting in.
Right.
So it's like what? So all right, it's now you're really narrowing it down to Kershaw, Verlander, Greinke. Right. There's and we're missing the Robin Roberts of this generation. Those players.
But again, I mean, it's Rick Russell, it's Milt Pappas, it's David Wells, it's Oral Hershiser. There's a lot of people with resumes like Mark Buehrle. There's very few with resumes like Verlander and Kershaw, right? There's only 100, I think it's 132 players have been voted in by the writers to the Hall of Fame. We're talking about 20,000 players. 132, that's it. So it's really hard to get in for a reason.
You know, two guys I played against, Chuck Finley and Mark Langston. I was looking at their numbers, and they reminded me of Mark Buehrle in this sense, is that whenever you went up against them, you knew they were great pitchers, top-of-the-line pitchers of my generation. You look at their numbers, very similar to Buehrle. Now, did I think Langston and Finley were Hall of Famers? No. I thought they were top echelon, A- pitchers for my generation. Buehrle is the same.
You know what, Buehrle, to me, is kind of like Paul Konerko. In that he's at that certain level, but when you're just at that certain level for 15 years or 12 to 15 years, there's just, and we're talking about a power hitting first baseman and a starting pitcher. That's what I'm talking about. If you're a GM or a team president, you have that player, that's a foundation piece. Like the rest of your life gets much easier.
Yeah, it means so much for a ball club when you know guys going to go out there every day. But I think what we're running into is that how do we judge pitching? We have changed pitchers and what they do for a living so drastically from 20 years ago that I think we're having a hard time just wrapping our brain around who is pitching well. We know some guys are doing it this way, some guys are doing it that way. You know, what if Blake Snell goes on a run and you look at the end of his career and 5.13 is what he averages per every start? It's going to be hard to judge that.